what's up. So today, guys, we're going to be doing something that I've never really done on the channel before, and I want to actually rank every Fortnite map from worst to best. I don't know why we've never done this, as it's like a really interesting idea to go through each seasonal map and look at what was good and what was bad about it. But yeah, I think this is gonna make for a really fun video. So we'll basically just be taking still screenshots of significant points of map updates. Like in season 10, the map was changing every week, so we won't look at each individual one, but just like major points. So the very beginning of the season and the very end. And pretty much though, it's just gonna be every seasonal map of Fortnite. Anyways, though, with all that said, make sure to subscribe to the channel, ranking every Hey What's Up at 3 million subscribers, and let's get into it. All right, so coming in at the lowest spot on our list at number 12, this is the final Season X map. So I basically decided to take a screenshot of the very start of Season 10 as a map and the very end. And what became the final version of the Fortnite Season 10 map, in my opinion, was really awful. So just looking down at it, I mean, a few decent places are obviously like Gotham, Pleasant Park, Dusty Depot, Salty Springs, Retail Row. There were definitely still some good places here, but my biggest critique and issue that I had with this map is that it was just cluttered. I mean, if you compare it to today's map, in the top left corner alone, you've got Junk Junction, Haunted Hills, Starry Suburbs, Pleasant Park, and The Block, all within like what would normally be in an older map, like one area. Or at the very max, like maybe 2 or 3. And that kind of seems to be the theme over the entire area. It's just extremely cluttered. And on top of that, I find that a lot of the POIs are just not really all that good. It's a lot of very averaged named POIs, and there's only a few that really stood out to me. On top of that, the new locations that were added in, like Moisty Palms and Greasy Grove, had really weird gimmicks to them, and that made those locations pretty just downright awful. So yeah, overall, this place just doesn't really have a lot of great landing spots, and overall too many just not good ones, and at the worst is just the clutter of it all. And so actually moving on to our number 11 spot, this is going to be the starting form of the Season 10 map. Now, depending on what week you wanted to look at it, you could have Neo Tilted, or you could also swap that out for Tilted Town, which came very quickly into the season. And I think looking at either one is fair. I couldn't find a map with Tilted Town on it, but I think that is something that really predominated that Season 10 map. In my opinion, that certainly wasn't as good as Gotham, but I do overall like this map more. It's still got both Paradise Palms and the little Puebla village, so that to me is something that I think was a sad loss for the final form of this map. You've got Dusty Depot and the old factories, which were nice, but not necessarily great in later seasons. It's pretty similar to the end of the season. There's just a few bad locations that aren't quite here yet. Now, actually moving on to our number 10 spot, this is going to be the Chapter 2 map. So the Chapter 2 map hasn't really seen any changes besides snow, the center islands, and I guess risky reels, but really, I mean, it's pretty much all the same still. I mean, I'm sure now that I said that, Epic's probably going to just upload a new map just to spite me, but hear me out. Honestly, I just don't really love this map yet. I like Slurpy Swamps and Lazy Lake, and other than that, I only ever want to drop at like Pleasant and Salty. I just find that a lot of the good places in this map are all on the outskirts, and with limited mobility, it's really annoying to land there. To me, that kind of limits my options, and because of that, I just don't love this map. Like, I seriously think just throwing in like an ATK or something would make it a whole lot better in my eyes, but I'm not overly attached to it like I am with any versions really of the old map, and yeah, I don't want to say that I dislike it, as I do with the Season 10 versions of the map. In this case, I just, I'm not quite in love with it yet. Honestly, I don't know if I'll ever be, but here's hoping. Now moving on to our number 9 spot, this is going to be the original Chapter 1 or pre-season map. So this map actually went all the way into Season 2 for a little bit before the major update, and overall, it's just pretty basic. And despite being very bare bones, I still think that this map is objectively better than the Chapter 2 map. I mean, this is the very beginning, you know, Season 1 versus Season 1, and I really think that this map just works better. The thing that really works with this map is you've got Retail Row, Salty Springs, and then the Dusty Factory combo, which are like 3 significant locations all in the middle. On top of that, it's much more simple. See, the Chapter 2 map doesn't have a ton of named locations, but it still feels cluttered with all the various unnamed spots. I don't love that unnecessary clutter, and I do feel like Chapter 2 is a little bit guilty of that. It's certainly better than Season X, and I don't dislike it, but the thing that I like about this old school map is that everything is very just like basic, I guess. What I'm trying to say is that it's not overly good, it just doesn't do any wrong. Despite mobility, it has some middle areas that are pretty good that really allows for the map to work. And just like the new map, there are places all around the outskirts that tend to be a little bit better, but you don't kind of have to land out there. I don't know, even working it through in my head, I feel like they are very similar, but personally, I like the Chapter 1 map more. It basically achieves the same thing, but with less clutter. Anyways, moving on to number 8, we're getting into some exciting stuff here, and this is actually the Season 9 map. So yeah, you can already see with Season 9 the clutter that was starting to take place here. But really, let me just get into what I like and dislike about this map. I really like Dusty Depot. I like Salty Springs. I like Paradise. I like a few unnamed locations, and that's pretty much it. Pressure Plant is good, but other than that, I hate the jungle area. I didn't like Neo Tilted. I didn't like Mega Mall. Pleasant Park is also good. You know, there's a few other decent locations, but overall, I just find this to be okay. If you wanted to drop Central in the season, you basically had to do Dusty or Salty because Loot Lake and Neo Tilted were pretty bad. Yeah, Loot Lake really got sewered in Season 9. It was just so much better in the earlier seasons as a really open area. And obviously, Neo Tilted wasn't that loved either. Mega Mall also wasn't that bad, but overall, I just feel like this map is the beginnings of what you see in Season 10, obviously. Like, I think over the seasons, it was just this slow creep of a cluttered amount of average locations. And it wasn't quite awful here, but it was getting to that point. And actually, so moving right on from here, at number 7, we have the Season 8 map. So you just hop one season back, and I think that this was a better version of the map. The only difference with this map is the removal of the slipstreams and then Retail Row, Tilted Towers, and Loot Lake being here. So this Loot Lake is the best version of Loot Lake. Don't at me. It is just undoubtedly the best version that has ever been in the game, and I still miss it. Obviously, Tilted Towers is better than Neo Tilted. It actually was a popular area, unlike Neo, and I mean, come on, it's Tilted. And then, you know, Retail, I think, kind of is about the same as Mega Mall. But really, I think Tilted Towers and Loot Lake are the big ones here that make me like this place more. Now, moving on to our number 6 spot, we're actually taking a bit of a jump here, and this is the Season 2 map. So this was the big update, the one that went from the Season 1 map that was completely bare to, well, you know, Tilted Towers and all that stuff. Basically, the entire western side of the map got some love. This was the biggest update that's ever been made to a map. You had the introduction of Junk Junction, Haunted Hills, Tilted Towers, Snobby Shore, and then Shifty Shafts. Then there were also 5 unnamed smaller locations. I think that this was a really good and necessary update to fill out the map. Definitely not feeling cluttered at this point, but what I would really consider to be like the perfect number of areas. It kind of spread out the map a little bit so you didn't have to lean towards that eastern side, and also made a really prominent POI tilted that everyone could drop at if they wanted to get tons of kills. It was a good map, but I think they made improvements to it throughout the middle seasons. Like Season 3. Season 3 was the update that kind of made the map a little bit more vibrant and colorful, but all it added was lazy. Nope. All it added was Lucky Landing. That's what I'm trying to say here. So it really wasn't a significant change. I think the introduction of Lucky Landing didn't hurt the map and improved it, but overall it was just the only change that happened. That and graphical changes. And moving on to our number 4 spot, this is going to be Season 4. So the most significant change to the map is obviously Dusty Divot. We had the removal of Dusty Depot and the factories, and this giant hole in the ground replaced it. And on top of that, there were also a bunch of mini craters located all around the map that contained hop rocks and were like very small POIs. So really the only major change was the introduction of Dusty Divot and the removal of factories. Now, I've always been a huge fan of factories, but after seeing them in Season 10, I kind of realized that they worked well in the seasons they were in, and that was it. They were a good location for 2017, but they didn't really stand the test of time, and I think updating to Dusty Divot made a big improvement to the map. Even at this point though, I think it is worth noting that the map still feels very bland. Like, yes, you've got a lot of different locations, but everything is the same. You've got forest, which turns into rolling hills and plains, and then, you know, you've got more forest and like a little bit of swamp, but overall it's just a lot of green. There's just very little diversity on the map despite there being a lot of options to land. But fortunately, in Season 5, that changed up a little bit, and coming in at number 3, we have Season 5. So all the Season 5 map did was bring in the desert. Now this only saw the introduction of one new named location, Paradise Palms, but you also had the Gust Track as well as, of course, the Pueblas. It's like still probably to this day one of the best looting areas in all of Fortnite. I liked Moisty Mire and I thought the prison was especially nice in this area, but overall in my opinion it was an upgrade. Honestly, I think I would have rather see Whaling go and keep Moisty in the prison, but this was fine. I mean, you've also got Risky Reels in here now, which I forgot to mention was a Season 4 edition. That was a classic and great location. But then the other thing that came in with this season was Lazy Links. Lazy Links was a moderately decent loot place with a very high population, so I think it was also a notable spot in the game. It couldn't really sustain its popularity and loot, but somehow still always had people going there. Oh yeah, and then the other location that was added in was Viking Village, which was never really for me, but I know that that was truly a popular spot for a lot of people. Now, moving on to our number 2 spot, this is actually going to be Season 6. So in my eyes, Season 6 was a pretty boring season, definitely not a standout season, but looking through the maps, I actually have to admit that this is one of my favorites. I feel like this was almost the perfect version of the map. Okay, so in the desert area, you've got a little bit of variation in scenery as well as some actual good spots. You've got Risky Reels and Lazy Links up in the north end. You still got Tilted Towers and Greasy Grove. You've got Dusty Divot completely covered over and finally evolved into its final form, I suppose. And then the greatest thing of all was the change at Loot Lake. So Loot Lake always played as an open area that really lent itself to people with good accuracy. The problem was that the water slowed you down, and that because of this, it really wasn't a place that you would ever want to go. But in Season 6, the island went up, which is obviously a super notable place to mention, and then you actually had a good Loot Lake. I mean, the island went around to a whole bunch of places, so it's also worth noting that the map was constantly changing this season. The island was a super fun place to drop, and yeah, I actually think that this was one of the best maps. But if I'm being honest, looking back on all of the maps, my personal favorite is actually Season 7. I was talking about this a little bit earlier as why I couldn't really pinpoint why I like Season 7 so much, but I think it's that. Basically, from Season 1 to Season 7, you have a steady trend of the map going up and down, but ultimately getting better. It was always making progress and really just getting better and better, and in my eyes, Season 7 was the peak. And I mean, again, let's just run through why this map was so great. So obviously you've got Paradise Palms, a nice change in scenery, but then they also added in the snow biome, which really made the map feel whole. It was just so diverse, and really it gave you a ton of different options, and just, I think it overall, it looked the best. You weren't just running from forest to plain, but you had these crazy canyons and everything in the winter biome. And on top of that, you've still got Tilted Towers, plus the Season 8 jungle hasn't taken away Lazy Links or Risky Reels or Wailing Woods. And then lastly, Loot Lake is in its best form. As I said, Loot Lake was really never a playable area because it was just so dangerous, but this kept the feel of a really wide open place that lent itself to people with good accuracy, but was playable. The experience you got of landing here was so foreign to everything else in the map, and it was like, honestly, I think my favorite location ever. And again, combining that with just so much variation in the winter biome of like Polar Peak that was constantly changing, Happy Hamlet that I didn't like but had great loot, and even, you know, Frosty Flights was decent if you could get a vehicle out of there. Honestly, I just think that this was the peak of the Chapter 1 map and the best map we've ever seen. It wasn't quite too cluttered yet, and had the most variation and best locations. And so yeah, this is my favorite map. But if we're being honest, I think Season 6 is a really close second. And anyways, ladies and gentlemen, with all that said, that is going to be our video for today. Yeah, this was really fun. I don't know why I've never done this topic before, but I feel like it's actually an original idea. So yeah, hopefully that showed it. Anyways, if you guys are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. If you already subscribed, leave a like. I will talk to you guys later, and peace out, you freaking nerds. Dude, I was like, man, I'm so color coordinated, like blue and dark, dark, blue and dark, and blue. It's perfect.